to life on earth.
Well, hello, you good people, and welcome. Welcome to Life on Earth for the 100th time. Thank you for joining me. I'm celebrating. I am stoked, geeked, happy, glad to be here, and glad that you are here. If you are watching live, if you're taking this in later on the podcasts, that's cool too. But thank you for joining me. 100 episodes of Life on Earth. The first episode of this show was way, way, way back. What was it? Maybe a year after COVID. So not quite in the thick of it. May 27, 2021, did an episode called Awe and Ashtrays, Possessions and Professions. And that kicked it off. Now, those of you who've been with me for the whole ride, you know that the show was originally both me and kindred Amy Nasir, the Mrs. behind Mr. and Mrs. Nasir. And she was with us for 60 episodes of these 100. Looking forward to talking about that. But yes, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Life on Earth, the show took its title, of course, from Ayn Rand's statement in her 74 speech, Philosophy Who Needs It? When she talked about philosophy in general, and then at the end said, well, what is my personal interest? She explains that she believes the cadets who were listening, if they were willing to consider the issue rationally, would choose her philosophy. And she said, formally, I call it objectivism, but informally, I call it a philosophy for living on Earth. Unquote. I've always taken that to heart or taken that to mind. And so, of course, I regard objectivism as the owner's manual of life, the philosophy for living on Earth. Could not resist naming the show that, because that's what this show has been about. And you have been along for the ride. Hello, Equal to Reality in the chat, and unsigned 32-bit individualist. I know who you are. You know who you are. Only the insiders. But thank you for joining us in the chat. If you are watching live, if you are in the chat, please consider supporting the Ayn Rand Center UK. How would you support the Ayn Rand Center UK, you ask? I'm glad you asked me that question. There is a link right at the top of the chat where you can become a member for putting in your 10 pounds a month or more. There are, I think, 5 different membership levels now, several membership levels when you get to the really high levels. Extra perks. All of them have benefits. All of them support the ARCUK. All of them make this show and others like it possible. So thank you. Thank you for those of you who do that. Also, put in a super chat. Make your comments stand out. Hit that little dollar sign. Now, Life on Earth. Life on Earth with Robert and Amy Nasir. Nowadays, Life on Earth with Robert Nasir. Again, 2 years worth of episodes. This is episode number 100. And I've been looking back. I've been looking back on what we have done, what I've accomplished over the course of these 2 years. And it breaks down, actually. It breaks down real simple. And the areas I'm going to discuss have take-home points for you. I want you to listen to this. I want you to be geeked, stoked, inspired, and to take home some thoughts, some of which you will have already heard, which will make your life even better than the magnificent thing that it already is. So, in breaking down these 100 episodes, I noticed that there's pretty much 4 domains. We did some great interviews. Interviews are a whole section in themselves. We interviewed Jean Moroney and the art expert Luke Travers and the epidemiologist Amish Adalja and Linda Cordair of Quent Cordair Fine Art, a sponsor of ARC UK, several of our shows, and Don Watkins on the topic of allies. And, excuse me, I'm dropping my list here. Oh yeah, we did a special 50th episode where we had several different guests, including people we had interviewed before. We did an episode where we interviewed our producer, the man behind the scenes who makes all of this happen, Daniel Kraus. We also did an interview with Jennifer Lionberger, a Rush super fan. No, not Rush Limbaugh. Rush the band. That was a great one. A lot of views on that one, too. Thank you for supporting it. The interviews were one of my favorite parts of doing this show. But that's just one of those 4 categories I want to celebrate today, because the second one was challenging concepts. And I really want that for you the way I want it for me. Some of the discussions that I have on this show, that Amy and I have had on this show, that we have had with you in the chat on this show, have been on topics that are not the usual topics. We've discussed awe. in that Awe and Ashtrays episode, we've discussed benevolence, copper pot objectivism, integrity, well, that's pretty mainstream, but also honor, and loyalty, gratitude, abundance, being present, grace. Oh, grace. What? Objectivists don't talk about grace, graciousness. What? Oh, hell yes, we do. On the topic of wonder, on the topic of danger, risk tolerance. Actually, Yaron Brook's pretty good on that one too. We've talked about the joy of selfishness, justice, mercy, benevolence, and pride. The multiple definitions of pride, because we don't want to be simplistic about that one. We ran into all sorts of trouble with that last month. A third category that I have covered on the show, and this has been fun for me. Need to do more of this one because I love doing the research, book reviews, essays, talks. So I have talked about, for example, Arnold Kling's book, The Three Languages of Politics, Steven Pinker's book on rationality. We've discussed Jordan Peterson, Nihilism and the Meaning of Life, Martha Beck's book, The Way of Integrity. Did a great episode called Me, Myself, and Sam Harris. When Reason Takes a Holiday. Well, of course, that's Ryan Holiday's book, Ego is the Enemy. If any of those are of interest to you, there is a playlist with all of these, including my discussion of superabundance by Marian Tupy, What We Owe the Future, Will McCaskill's book, and especially the discussion of anti-racism. That one was a challenge. There is a playlist with all of these episodes, Life on Earth with Robert and Amy Nasir, on the YouTube channel for the Ayn Rand Center UK. Easy to look up any one of these episodes that might tickle your fancy, that might capture your interest. But as I was going through these, my fourth category for tonight, I realized that I could sum some of these up with rules. Now, rules, of course, everybody's been doing rules. Top 10, top 12, my favorite dozen, whatever it is. Jordan Peterson, famously, 12 rules for life. Yaron Brook has done his own rules for life. He's come up with, I think, 17 or 19 of them. So I started looking at, well, how would I discuss these? How would I categorize them? How could I sum them up in a way where you get to take something home with you? And I did come up with a dozen, 12 of them. And I'm going to give them to you real quick. And you can stick them in your pocket, take them home, pull them out whenever you need them. But first, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the super chatters. I want to say thank you to Catherine, who is in with a super chat and says happy 100th. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. 100 episodes still kind of floors me, especially because I think some of them were very substantive, offered something maybe that nobody else is quite offering. So thank you. Thank you for that. Equal to Reality has given a gift membership. On the YouTube channel, you can become a member. Now, this is separate from the ARCUK website memberships, but right on the YouTube, you can become a member. A small contribution to the ARCUK every month gets you access to some feeds that only you have access to, including some fun things like emojis and also a free monthly gift super chat. So Equal to Reality has gifted a membership to somebody, and it looks like Glenn Nicolini has picked that up. So super cool. Thank you for making that happen. 12 rules. 12 rules for life on Earth. Sounds pretty broad, pretty bold. What's this guy got to offer that I didn't already get from Yaron Brook or from Jordan Peterson? Well, 12 rules for life on Earth. You tell me if you've heard these anywhere else, and if you disagree with a single damn one of them. Number one rule for life on Earth. Yes, you are the center of the universe. Ooh, that sounds like an invitation to narcissism. But seriously, everything you choose, everything you give attention to, and everything that you sanction is elevated. You are the star of this show, as well as the director, the producer, and most importantly, the scriptwriter, the screenwriter. And you are a work in progress, so progress. You can go to our show, Awe and Ashtrays, Possessions and Professions, right from that moment, that very first show, in which I discussed, for example, and among many other things, Howard Rourke speaking to Gail Wynant, in which Gail Wynant, when he's talking to Dominique, says, you know, I'm a madman about possessions. When I pick something up, he talks about picking up a dime store ashtray. It becomes this special thing because it's mine. And later on, Howard Rourke says to Gail Winan, you own everything that you say yes to. And you own it in a way that only you do, that nobody else can, because your yes is unique to you. My yes is something else altogether. Take possession of your world, your experiences. We talk about accountability, and accountability is great, but this is the flip side of that. You take accountability, you take responsibility for things. What does that mean? All the burdens are on you. No, what it means is you have the power, you have the control, you are driving this life. You are the star, you are the director, you are the producer, and you are absolutely the screenwriter. So make sure you write something magnificent. Okay, we'll go quicker. That was rule number one. Yes, you are the center of the universe. Rule number two, happiness. Here's another controversial one in the objectivist community, or maybe in every community. Happiness is chosen. Now, while happiness is the result of a commitment to defining and achieving your values, no one is happy who does not choose to be happy. You have got to want it, and not everybody does. I discussed this in Happiness and Jumping Off the Hedonic Treadmill, but especially in my essay that's also on my Substack, Choosing Happiness, a Prerequisite to Achieving. I have known people, you have probably known people, who have achieved everything they set out to achieve. Successful in their careers, raised a family, bought a home, did very well in life, and they're not particularly happy. And I know other people who are just starting out on their life's journey. They have not achieved their values yet. They're still working on achieving the qualities of character that are going to enable them to be successful in their career, to raise a family, to get the things they want out of life, to do the things they want in life. And they already are happy. You have to choose that. I call them prerequisites because we know from Ayn Rand, happiness is the state that proceeds from the achievement of your values. But the achievement of the ability, that self-confidence, that well-earned self-esteem, the exercise of pride, moral ambition, that prerequisite will already get you there. As long as you're on that journey, you can be happy now. The alternative is you wait until you've done everything, achieved everything, finally give yourself permission, sitting in your rocking chair at 98 years old and ready to expire, to be happy. Number two, happiness is chosen. Okay, rule number three, and I'm going to try to go quicker because there's 12 of them. The formulas for success are all around us. The answers are well known, they're widely available. Just see any of the countless books on motivation and personal success in your bookstore today. And also see the biographies of the great men and women. And most especially, see the work of the great artists. As Ayn Rand said, art is the indispensable medium for the communication of a moral ideal. So I did an episode called Recipes and Scripts for Success, Objectivism on One Foot, and Life in 4 Words or Less. Yeah, the spoiler for Life in 4 Words or Less is think rationally, act accordingly. If you ever need to pull this whole philosophy out of your pocket and look at it, say in a moment of decision or indecision, think rationally, act accordingly. That's not really objectivism in 4 words, just like Ayn Rand said, objectivism in 1 foot, in which she gave 4 sentences. That's not the whole philosophy. It's a handy reminder, though, if you do already know it. I want to give a couple more shout outs here real quick. Super chats in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for being active in the chat. Sense of Mind is in with a super chat and says, oh, this is my favorite ARCUK show. I'm unable to watch the full episode live right now, but thank you for 100 episodes of wisdom. Here's to 100 plus more. I could not ask for a better compliment than that. Thank you, Sense of Mind. Very much appreciate it. Appreciate the super chat too and supporting the channel, but thank you. And John, member for 7 months. This is one of those free membership chats I told you about. I'm in there. I use them too. Cool. And John says, life on earth, relevant, upbeat, and fun. Happy birthday and many. Thank you for that and many more. I'm all up for many more. Thank you very much for that. And finally, Apollo Zeus is in with 3 pounds, and we know pounds are worth more than dollars. At least I think they are. Things have been changing lately. I know euros are still on top. We always pick on those socialist European countries, but somehow the euro is still beating out the dollar. That's just wrong. I protest. There ought to be a law. But seriously, Apollo Zeus is in and says, life on earth. Oh, he's celebrating too. Thank you very much for that. So again, rule number 3, just to repeat the rule, the formulas for success are all around us. Capitalize on these. And if you think, well, I don't know if I really want to learn from Adam Grant because he's not an objectivist. I don't know if I really want to learn, getting things done because David Allen's kind of creepy. Learn what they've got to learn. Let the rest go. There's an old line Robert Ian, the objectivist magician, used to say. I think it was him that I heard this from. This is going back many years, but he used to say, everybody around you, everybody that you meet has something to teach you. Find out what it is and learn it. I'm sure that goes back decades to other wisdom providers, but absolutely true. Now, we joke some people are very good only as being bad examples. Maybe not everybody has something important to teach you, but that is the rare exception. So absolutely. Number 4, real quick, everything is finite. Memento mori, which means remember, someday you will die. That's it. Okay, that's not quite it. There's no time, energy, or resources to waste. So yes, get busy. And you don't need, and I'm definitely sending this out to the objectivists, especially the young ones who want to make sure they've got all their ducks in a row before they pull out their rifle and start shooting ducks. Oh, those poor ducks. Anyway, there is no time or energy or resources to waste. And that means you don't need a perfect plan or maximum resolve and ambition to get started. Start. Talked about this in our episodes on ambition and Zen and Stoicism. And everything is finite. So yes, memento mori. Remember, someday you're not going to be here. Someday it will be too late. So get started. Figure out what you want. Doesn't have to be your whole life. Gene Moroney reminds us your central purpose in life may not even be lifelong. It may change every 15 years. If you're not Howard Rourke thinking, I know what I want in every area for the rest of my life, that's okay. Figure out what you want right now, what you really want in life, start going for it. You can change in 15 years. Get a piece of that. Number 5. Rule number 5, most of our limitations, boy, I forget who I lifted this one from, but I did not write this. And I absolutely believe it and live by it. Number 5, most of our limitations are self-imposed. You are more capable than you know, more than you can even imagine. If you were forced by circumstances, some crisis, something happened where you had to be twice the man you are, twice the woman you are right now, you could do it. Might make you miserable in other ways. I'm not saying immediately start working twice as hard or start romancing twice as hard or do everything twice as hard. But you could and you should have a piece of that. Most of our limitations, oh, I'm not like that. I don't do that. That's not me. No, most of our limitations are self-imposed. Bust past them. Number 6, you'll recognize this if you've seen the show at all. Ideas matter. No, of course ideas matter. We're fans of Ayn Rand. Most of us are objectivists. But this life, politics, culture, the culture war, the news of the day, this is a battle of ideas, not of persons, not of personalities, certainly not of tribes. Because even in the worst case scenario, which I don't believe is true, but a lot of you do, even in the worst case scenario, if everything going on right now really is about personalities, individuals, and corruption, and demagoguery, and idiocy, and power lust, Carneys and Marx. Even if I was that kind of cynic, I would have to acknowledge, well, yeah, but it's only the ideas that make that possible. Even if people are lying to you about what their morals and ethics are, even if people were lying to you about they really want to save the earth, even if people are lying to you all the time and it's all power games, it is only the ideas that make it all possible. You fight the battle of ideas because that's where the decisions will be made. That will be decisive. If altruism was not a moral ideal, the politicians couldn't make you sacrifice. Now you can say, well, the politicians don't really believe in sacrifice or altruism. They just want the power. Doesn't matter. If altruism was not the dominant cultural moral ideal, they could not win. They could not achieve that power. They would be voted out, no matter how much corruption behind the scenes they had working in their favor. Ideas matter. Now, I have made the case on various episodes. It's more than that. Ideas actually do rule the politicians. Ideas actually do rule the professors. These people actually believe this stuff. But even if you're a cynic and you think, no, it's all shysters, it's all games, doesn't matter. Still ideas ruling the day. I made that point in several episodes. If you're not convinced, but you're curious, listen to my episode on racism, anti-racism, none of the above in Dilbert. That was a great episode. I would not have guessed the news about Scott Adams and Dilbert could tie in with Ibram X. Kendi's book on anti-racism. I thought it worked beautifully. Several other episodes too. Got a few more super chats here. I've got to say thank you to Dale Grissell, who's now on board as a member, and Bonnie Bertrand is in with a super chat, a super sticker as well. Thank you very much for your support. I do appreciate that. So, number 6, ideas matter. Number 7, I must have stole this from Michael Jackson. The song just got stuck in my head. You are not alone. Kindred spirits are out there, and in this modern world, we have countless ways to find one another. And you deserve this. Listen to the episodes on benevolence, on the blind followers versus blind rebels. There's a false alternative. What you really want is, well, listen to the episode on unconditional love. There was a controversial one. And on art and the pursuit of romance. As one of the things I love about the chat on this show is seeing that there are kindred spirits out there listening live, watching the view numbers. I know a lot of you are listening afterward too. Believe me, you are in here. He says, pounding his chest, even though on the audio platforms they can't see it. You are in here, and I do appreciate that. And you are not alone. Easy for me to say. I just came back from Ocon. But even outside of the conferences, find your people. Number 8, go to rule number 8. Reason is your superpower, and reality is your ally. An episode I did on Rationality, Pinker's book, Rand's Virtue. I was not super critical of Steven Pinker. His book on rationality is good, but he's not an objectivist, and he has that empiricism, intrinsicism split. The is and the ought. The things that I talked with James Valiant and Amy Nasir about in the episode that we did on the analytic-synthetic dichotomy, which is why I called it Pinker's book, Rand's Virtue. Rationality is actually a virtue that unites fact and value. And really, I talked about that in our Christmas episode, Merry Christmas. Reason is the reason for the season. I thought there were some good episodes there on that topic. When Ryan Holiday released his book, Ego is the Enemy. Oh, no. Well, of course, he's largely looking at false ego, narcissistic personality, inflated ego above and beyond the facts. But you should never attack ego, self-esteem in that way. It's the same mistake that clown show Matt Walsh does on the Daily Wire. People shouldn't have self-esteem. As if the way in which the left misuses the concept self-esteem means we should wipe it out of existence. Are you crazy, Matt Walsh? Well, you decide that one for yourself. But yes, number 8, reality is your ally. Reason is your superpower. Number 9, see, we're getting through this quick. Number 9, I'm going to repeat them at the end. I want you to take these home with you. No, you don't have to write them down. I'll make them easily available. Number 9, virtue works. I love that because in philosophy, we talk about virtue ethics and the idea that you have these transcendent virtues. And should it be that or should it be pragmatism? Well, I wouldn't say pragmatism, but I would say virtue is practical. Virtue works. Value is that which one acts to gain and keep. Virtue is the action by which one gains and keeps it. Certain Mr. Galt tells us. So in episodes like hope, objective is talking about hope. Yes, hope, a preview and a promise. And in Amy's great interview with Linda Cordair, how to be a passionate and intellectual woman. And of course, in the episode reviewing Martha Beck's book on integrity, This Is the Way. And finally, in my episode, what does that look like? Because that's what I want for you, is to take all of your ideals and say, okay, now the real world, what does that look like in the real world? And the answer isn't, well, no, they won't let you be an idealist. Everybody sucks. No, the answer is, oh, if I'm going to take these ideas and use this as the owner's manual for life, oh, okay, well then for my career, I need to do this and take this job or get this education, take these steps, meet these people, do these things, do that kind of work. And over here in romance, I need to find the woman or the man of my dreams and spend time. Just spend time. It's how that is done, dating and friendship, and then increase it. Point is, virtue works. You do the right things, you get the right results. There are exceptions, but they are exceptions. And there's no way around it. There's no alternative. If you want success, you do the right things. Number 10, optimism. Oh, there's one. There's one that I've gotten in a little bit of trouble for. Optimism. Number 10, optimism is realism. I've had people answer this whole idea of optimism, things like the multiple evidence from Marion Tupy and Steven Pinker and Matt Ridley and countless writers saying, well, statistically, everything's getting better all the time. And they tell me, well, you shouldn't be an optimist. You should be a realist. Or you should be a pessimist, and then you're never disappointed. Optimism versus pessimism is not in the same domain as realism. Yes, you should be a realist in the sense that you should be reality-oriented. I don't call that realist. No, you should be an optimist because optimism is realism. We never had to take any of it seriously, did we? No, we never had to. What do Ayn Rand's characters mean by that? Well, evil is out there. There are evil people. There's bad stuff, and lots of it. And it's not metaphysical. It's not efficacious. It is something we have to fight. It's something we have to know, we have to be aware of. Why don't we take it seriously then? John Galt takes it more seriously than anybody in the world. But he doesn't take it as metaphysical. And he doesn't take it as important. He's got more important things to do than to care about Fred Thompson or Wesley Mouch or James Taggart. Optimism is realism. Listen to those episodes, and there are many that justify that. And I some of you are already on board, but if you're not, I hope that you will have a little bit of that seed planted. Everything is getting better all the time. That doesn't mean there aren't bad things going on. And you do have to take them seriously. It's why we take 3% of our time and 3% of our resources, and we buy insurance. And we put locks on our doors. Some of us have cameras on our houses, and we support the local police, but we also support the military and the legal system to the extent that it functions at all properly. We do what we've got to do to protect ourselves from evil, and we do what we can to fight evil. Well, more on that in a minute. Number 10, optimism is realism. Number 11, here's a controversial one for you. Aren't they all controversial? What the heck? Number 11, people are just the best. Speaking of people being the best, thank you. We have another super chat. Buster Jones, who has been generous, thank you for that, is in, and with a $10, that's very generous in our super chat, because I like the 99-cent ones too. but says 100 episodes and still going strong. Well, thank you. Thank you. If you count this as going strong. And I think that I'll tell you what, I went out strong on 99 by making half of the show or more just reading Ayn Rand. Boy on the Bicycle episode. If you missed that one, some of my favorite scenes from the Fountainhead Anthem, Ayn Rand's writing. But thank you for that. Number 11, people are just the best. And so that means what? Well, first of all, treat them justly as they deserve. And be willing to help, but be willing to ask for help. In other words, engage. Did an episode called Compliments, another one called Kindred Spirits. People really are the best thing going. I'll justify that in a minute, but first, let me give you a quote from Leonard Peikoff. I've given you the live version of this from the 1976 lectures. Here's the version that's in OPAR. Leonard Peikoff, quote, "Justice consists first, not in condemning, but in admiring, and then in expressing one's admiration explicitly and in fighting for those one admires. It consists first in acknowledging the good, intellectually, in reaching an objective moral verdict, then existentially in defending the good, speaking out, making one's verdict known, championing publicly the men who are rational. One also praises them to their face if there is a context to indicate that this would be of value to the person rather than an intrusion. Evil must be combated, but then it is to be brushed aside. What counts in life are the men who support life." Unquote. Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand, Chapter 8 on Virtue. A live version of that, he says, and this one I can quote from memory, "The first duty of justice is to acknowledge and defend the good," unquote. And the great thing about that, of course, is it's exactly what you want to do. You don't want to spend all of your time and attention on evil. Spend your time and attention on good, on virtue, on people who are decent. And that goes far wider than the objectivist community. Every artist that you enjoy, every musician whose work you respect, every athlete who impresses you with their work, and especially the businessmen, the great entrepreneurs and the great CEOs, but also your local retailers, your baristas, your cashiers, anybody who is getting it done, who is doing their job, who is making this world where we are surrounded by miracles, not least of which is ourselves, possible. People are just the best. And finally, number 12, and really this could be the one rule. Rules for life on earth, number 12. Values are primary. Values have primacy. We are here to live a life, not just to fight evil and not to just not die, to live a life. That means values have primacy. Listen to our episode on copper pot objectivism, or the recent episode, The Vice Squad. You don't want to be a member of the Vice Squad, spending your entire life fighting evil and never getting around to actually being or celebrating the good. Listen to The Joy of Selfishness, a title I find irresistible for several reasons that I explain in that episode. I'll tell you what, I have a couple of notes I want to read real quick here, because we did an episode, a very good episode of the Thursday Collective today. And we talked about a bunch of hoodlums in San Francisco who are attacking autonomous vehicles that are being used as taxis, what they call robo-taxis. And these clowns have figured out that if you take a traffic cone, which presumably was responsible for the safety of some situation, they should not be stealing traffic cones. But if you put the traffic cone on the hood of a car, it disables its robot functions. It can't be a robo-taxi. Somebody from the company's got to come by, remove the cone, fix it up. And I thought, these clowns, the vicious clowns. Can you imagine if you were driving just a regular car, your own car, driving down the road, you stop at a stoplight and somebody sticks a traffic cone on your hood. The fact that they're doing this to robotic vehicles and the owner has to now drive out there and take the cone off the hood, it doesn't make it better. That makes it worse. We also talked about there's now, as of today, a birth control pill that's going to be available over the counter without a prescription in the United States. And all of these autonomous vehicles, using them, developing them, taking drugs like the birth control pill, or other ones that have become legal, things like Claritin. We're just now used to being able to get that. Ozempic. Oh no, I'm thinking of a different one. Drugs that are coming off of prescription only, or drugs that are becoming legal. Marijuana is now legal in most places in the United States since the federal law changed that. That increases your personal responsibility. And my co-hosts, the other folks on the show today, were quite right to say, well, this one thing coming off the FDA's restricted list just highlights all the years it was restricted and all the other drugs that are still not able, we can't get. So Harry Binswanger, for example, is quite right to call it the FDA the federal death agency. I can't argue with any of that. I absolutely agreed with my co-hosts. They were absolutely right. And yet, I will absolutely celebrate the triumph of this one little change. Women can now get over-the-counter birth control in a way that they should have been able for years. We still need to be angry about that. We still need to fight. But I celebrate. I am celebrating. I am blowing out my blowouts and balloons and whistles. I celebrate every one little victory, to steal a line from Rush. And what I wrote at the time but did not read on the show today was, while there are thousands of ways in which the government and other government-connected agencies violate our freedoms, here's the thing. We are enormously autonomous. We choose our careers. We choose our foodstuffs. We choose our recreation. We choose romance. We choose transportation. And in each of these areas, we can choose wisely, or we can make mistakes. We can even be reckless. We could be intentionally self-destructive. And when that happens, we might call on others to help us out, to rescue us, bail us out, fix our broken bodies in the hospital, or our broken families in counseling or in courts. And sometimes when we wreck ourselves, well, we take others with us, as in reckless driving, or falling asleep with a lit cigarette and starting a fire in our apartment building, or suffering a heart attack or a psychotic break in public spaces. And here's the thing. We have existing laws, rulings, procedures for handling these situations, adjudicating disputes, resolving conflicts, determining liability, penalties, restitution. Personal responsibility is nothing new. There may be less of it than there should be, given the government in our present world. But most of us are responsible for choosing our course of action and taking the credit or the blame, the rewards and the penalties. And that is as it should be. So I'm going to wrap up this celebration of 100 episodes, which I am very proud of, with my own personal manifesto. It'll take me less than 2 minutes. But this sums up, for me, life on Earth. So I want to thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for going on this ride with me, for watching these shows, for giving me your support, supporting the ARC UK and the Super Chat. Please don't stop. And for coming with me where we go from here. Plans in the works, too early to share anything. As you know, ARC UK is also growing. I'm so much looking forward in 2 weeks to the collective shows like we did today, becoming a daily show. The Daily Collective, that's going to be good. But let me tell you, it comes down to this. live the best life you can. You were gifted a life, free and clear. You were born. And as everything is finite, one day you're going to die. So make of your life what you will, as you wish, as bold and adventurous, or as silly and outrageous, or as ambitious and industrious, or as quiet and pleasant as you like, and ideally with few regrets. Values matter a lot. Disvalues, threats, very little. Focus on the former as much as you can. Tend to the latter as much as you must. Your means to achieve this is to think and to act, to use your mind and your body. The first is primary. Your reasoning mind is the source of every value beyond the animal level, beyond gathering nuts and berries. The power of a conceptual level consciousness to transcend the immediate moment's thoughts and concerns is so magnificent that when multiplied by 2, by 10, by 1,000, by 8 billion, it has led to all of the miracles of modern living, which we experience and take for granted, from cheap and bountiful food, shelter, clothing, to unprecedented safety and security, to dazzling technology, to endless art and literature and music and values too numerous to list. And what's true of your nature, the need to be free to think and to act on your thinking, is true of everyone else as well. Respect this fact in others. And once you establish that, then you can get to the business of meeting and engaging and trading with and befriending and loving everyone you can. And you should. You deserve to love and to be loved. You deserve the spotlight, at least now and then. You deserve the rewards of every good action you have taken. But these rewards won't always come of their own accord. Karma requires a driver. So ring your own bell, blow your own horn, squeak your own wheel. Take care of those you call your own and keep good company. Tragedy, failure, drama, injustice, outrage, sadness will touch each of us. And that's as it should be. Values cannot be automatic, nor guaranteed. And human beings are fallible, breakable, limited, finite. Suffer when you must, and as gracefully as you can. But in essence, life is good. If it wasn't, we wouldn't. But we do. So, do.